come check out TVCevo 2018, happening at AnimEVO August 4th, and pre-register for various tournaments at smash.gg. For more info, visit animeevo.moe/tvc. Alright, time to talk about the stupid-ass Giants, the despair for many players, and the burden that this game holds, leaving opinions split during the prime era of TVC. It's a well-known fact that they break this game to a point where most players wouldn't know what to do, and learning the matchup was hard enough seeing as there isn't a plethora of players using them anyways. TVC is the first game that I know of that implements this new Giant mechanic in a team-based game. Choosing one of the two Giants replaces the two-member team mechanic with a single Titan-esque character with a beefy life bar and infinite hyper armor. Over the history of TVC's lifespan, these characters have both been banned and tournament legal, but unfortunately, some players are exclusive to playing PTX or Gold Lightan, meaning that some tournaments would not allow them to play their character. Again, this is a dubious situation, as it could be suggested to them to learn regular characters, but some choose not to play at all. So instead of making Giant players feel outcasted, we've made a compromised ruling over time, basically allowing Giants in play, but you can't counterpick with a Giant during a match, meaning that if you do choose to play as a Giant, you're character locked from the start. No changing to a Giant after you lose a round as regular characters, and no changing to a duo team after losing a round as a Giant. The characters are no longer just straight up banned. Reason being is that the Giants are indeed beatable, and in fact, they actually kinda suck. And this ruling is to prevent any scumbaggery from occurring, as things have happened in the past. So before I get down with this Tatsunical tutorial, allow me to present this little history lesson.
Tatsunical!
Once upon a time, there were two tournament players. For reasons I'm not going to use their real names, let's just call them Joe and Jeremy. So Jeremy goes up to play his tournament match against Joe, but before their match actually starts, Jeremy dabbles around on his cell phone. In the meantime, Joe goes ahead and picks his characters as he's ready for the fight. Jeremy has not yet chosen his characters and recognizes that Joe's team is not one that is well-rounded against Giant characters. So he goes ahead and picks Gangster Lightning. This is unfortunate for Joe, as he has no idea how to fight Gangster Lightning with his regular team, so he ends up losing the round fairly easily. Joe then switches to the Hard Counter team, which is not his main characters but are universally known to do great against Giants. Also keep in mind that this is during the era of 2 out of 3 rounds. Only 2 games are needed to win the whole set. So Joe is down 1 game, then he beats Jeremy's Lightan, which then Jeremy switches to his main team and wins fairly easily as Joe does not know how to fight regular characters with the anti-Giant team. Jeremy wins the set without ever having to face Joe's main characters with his own. While this may seem like some shady shit from the outside perspective, I have to emphasize that Jeremy was completely in the right in this situation. Tournaments are made for the play-to-win mentality, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with counterpicking your opponent. Joe still had the option to wait for Jeremy to get the fuck off his phone like the stupid millennial that he is, or in an even extreme circumstance, call for a double blind pick. It doesn't matter if everyone thinks it's cheap. There was no ruling against it at the time, and the whole state of affairs is completely legal. So with the Giant clause, we're trying to make it matter, and also teach you how to defeat the Giants. The short answer? Pick Tekkaman as your assist. He's the only character in the game with an assist that breaks hyper armor and allows your point to do full-on combos to capitalize on damage. The other answer is to find your character's armor breaking move. The entire cast has at least one move that breaks the Giant's hyper armor, but they vary from accessibility. Some characters can only break with a level 1 super, some with a level 3 super, and some have regular specials or command grabs that interrupt that armor. Then there's Blade, who has all the above, making him one of, if not the hardest matchup for the Giants. If you can manage to connect an armor breaker, take advantage of as many hits as you can, as the damage you deal doesn't come as often, and everything counts as permanent damage. Keep in mind that the Giant players only have one character, so there's no way to tag out and regenerate red health. With that note, Giants can only use their red health for Baroque. Denying them any red limits their game. Giant players need to take huge risks in order to get their game started, and while they usually have slow and laggy moves, they use Baroque to make themselves safe. So to simply not not hit them and deny them Baroque would give you more opportunities to exploit, waiting for them to make an unsafe maneuver and punish them on their recovery. Staying in the air is also a great strategy, as the giants have difficulty reaching the higher ends of the screen. Characters who can shoot projectiles from above do well in the matchup, but also keep in mind that every hit gives them Baroque. Being in the air keeps you out of range of the high-low mix-up that PTX can perform. One of his best moves is 6B to 4B, which is an overhead that could be cancelled into a low. With the overhead move, nothing can be followed up without Baroque, so it's not that scary to just eat it or try to chicken block. But the low, you must block it like your life's depending on it! This thing is delayable, it pretty much hits instantly, it leads to all the damage, and if you're trying to switch sides, it autocorrects itself. What the hell? Avoid getting stuck in the corner with the high-low mix-up, but if you do, it's much better to just accept the overhead. The giants also have grabs to open you up, and I can't stress enough that this is not an infinite. The grabs that giants can perform are not legit. They can be mashed out of. It's mostly just to keep players on their toes. There's plenty of time to react, and breaking them doesn't take that much effort. Just a few button presses and a little left and right wiggle of the joystick. You can even mash the buttons or directions alone, showing how easy it is to escape. Lightan's grabs are significantly faster, but still reactable nonetheless, as he fights up close. And never Mega Crash these things. The only times you should be Mega Crashing a giant is when you're out of their attack range, as bursting doesn't blast them away due to hyper armor, and you'll still be left open for damage. Now, when dealing damage to the giants, remember they have hyper armor, but they still have to obey the same rules for blocking, meaning that they are still susceptible to lower overhead mix-ups even when they don't have any hit stun. The benefit of knowing this is that if you manage to land a hit on a giant, any corresponding consecutive hits will connect as well, because once a giant is attacked, they are no longer able to get into their block animation as long as the hits continue, leaving them free to act but accepting all the damage that's being dealt. So if you land a hit, keep going until you see they're able to attack you, then try to make yourself safe. A generic way to deal damage to giants is to do jump cancelable attacks and immediately jump cancel backwards to block. It's not the fastest way of doing things, but it's safe, and characters who deal consecutive hits can effectively slow down the giants with all that hit stop. And if you deal enough hits, giants actually have a dizzy animation which opens up their armor. There's more to deal with characters specifically, but these are just the basics of dealing with giants. A while back, Dr. Science and I discussed a tier list on which characters do best against them. Here's the collective list we formed. The whole discussion can be found in the end card. Go check that out, and hopefully there's a better understanding of fighting the Gigantes.